when a small cap company announces the launch of industrial production of high performance batteries incorporating their proprietary silicon based anode material. You got to pay attention because that's what HPQ Silicon just announced this morning. That's going to be the shortest intro we have, Bernard, because the news speaks for itself. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, George.
Okay, you know I'm going to ask you because it's the first question I've asked you for the last 12 milestones that have just been one after another. How big is this? How happy should shareholders feel today? And from the looks on the boards, they're happy. But how big is this, Bernard?
This is very big because it's our first. Well, no, actually, it's not our first. I think about it, but it's a way for us to speed up the commercialization and to start to generate and produce and have batteries made. We figured a way to make batteries better. A lot of people were asking us, "Can you make us those batteries?" And we were like trying to figure out what's the best strategy to do. And I think this is a representation of that best strategy, which is now being implemented by Novacium in France first, and then we'll be, as we say in the press, we'll be transferred over to us in Canada later. But I think it's the most brilliant first step.
We all knew that commercialization of this side of the company was possible and looked like, but this seemed to come together very fast. And I'm going to quote Dr. Cram in a second, but where did it come from? How did it come together this fast? Because I have to assume, and again, it's me just assuming, reading between the lines, that there's a catalyst here somewhere. There's a catalytic event that's led to this happening. What's going on? How did it come together this fast?
Well, it's funny you say this fast in the sense that if you think about it, we issued our last PR on batteries, I think, in January. So it seemed that we had gone quiet on batteries, but that's because we were focused on accomplishing this. What's the catalyst is that the results we were having, made us realize that we had the potential with our technology, if we found the right partner, to basically have one of the best batteries available out there to the market. So, our thought was, how can we figure and make those available? Because we were getting demand for those type of batteries for a specific application, but we were starting to get demand. So we quickly realized that because we didn't bother with the half cell, we went directly for the 18650 size. That gave us a different view of everybody. We already had a product, okay, where there was equivalent on the market, but nobody could reach the level we were delivering with over 1,000 cycles and those type of issues. So it's how we could figure a way to do that type of industrialization. And the strategy is really to find the key, the right industrial partner to start working with and figure one that could help you, A, integrate our material into their battery line, and B, be able to produce for us those type of materials. So that's our industrialization is going to be at the beginning. It's the wisest way for a small company like us, and even Novacium, to be able to reach a certain critical mass very, very fast.
When you're releasing your data, start from 50 cycles, 100, 150, 200, Gen 2, Gen 3, 600, 1,000. It almost seemed like it got to a point where, at least the investor side, because we don't know what goes on the business side, was maybe reaching a state of, okay, this is great, but exhaustion. But clearly, there's a method to the madness, and people saw that, the people that mattered, because, quote, from your Novacium has attracted significant interest from a number of key players in the energy sector. Can you expand on that a little bit? I know you can't be specific, but was that it? That your announcements were coming out, the benchmarks, capacities, and all of that? You're setting quote unquote world records. Is that what happened?
Yeah, there's not too many people. Actually, as we said at one point, there's only about 3 of us that are in this range of category and being able to do it at this moment. And we think actually we're unique and we're probably a bit higher up. And it was showing interest. The problem was the people that were approaching. See, Originally, we were looking at how to do this, the battery material to incorporate it into the silicone anode material, how to incorporate it into batteries. Okay, we've demonstrated it's feasible. We demonstrated there's no big need to change your production line. So we demonstrate all these points. But the question for us was, okay, so what's the next step? We have the people that are showing interest for us want batteries. You know, they like that our material gives this great number of results, but they want us they would prefer to be able to get batteries to be able to use them, test them, see how much it improves their own product. Because we've got to remember, a battery is just something to improve another product, right? Sort of like a sandwich material. So in the military cases, we issue press release. The soldier of tomorrow is going to be a walking batteries because of all the electronic he has, okay, to be able to countermeasure all those type of things. And he's going to, the better performing the batteries, the less he has to carry, the better it is for him. So he can carry things that are more important than just batteries. So the demand was there, and we had to figure a way to how do we meet that demand? How can we meet that demand the quickest possible so that we're in a good position? And that's what the team at Novacium found and figured a way to do it. They found us the industrial partner that can do it, and they started to do it. And then, we were not going to issue at one point for investors when you start repeating the same type of thing, even though for technical partners and those type of things, those are really exciting. They think it's sort of like you're running in circle, not going anywhere. But as you said, there was a technique to our madness, which was where we are now. We're in a position where we're making batteries and getting ready to go.
I want to talk about the large industrial player, the LIP. We keep using these acronyms. But first, I want to go back to my question about there being a catalyst.
Mhm.
And I'm going to drill down a little further because it looks like you actually be commercializing, producing before September 30th. Quote from Dr. Kram. This strategic acceleration is a response to the strong market interest. Our objective is to deliver the first commercial units and begin formalizing partnerships before the end of Q3 2025. And all of us do a little math. That's the end of September 2025.
Mhm.
Um, there's a that's a pretty strong statement. You said before you're one of only three in the world that could do it, and I don't know what the other two are doing, but it looks like you're on the brink of delivering commercial units with formal partnerships by the September 30th. What can you tell us about that? Why was Dr. Kram so specific? Because that to me sounds like he must know he's
I
negotiating something. I don't think he's just guessing.
no,
That's
no.
just my analysis, anyways.
Well, your analysis is not wrong. I've learned from experience you don't bet against Dr. Grant. If he's set up his mind to do this, is because he's it's we've gone from a point where we were issuing a lot of news just to say to a point where we keep a lot of things closer to our chest, okay? And then when we've made strategical goal, we say this. So those are not words that are said lightly on the part of Dr. Graham, in the sense that if he's saying this because there's something there. I can't go into more detail, but there is something there about this, and it's going to come to fruition. Um, and I think it's going to be just one of many order to start to move forward in that regard. So I wouldn't bet against Dr. Cram at this moment.
And by the way, that's before the end of Q3 2025, which means it could be any time in July, August, September. So I just want to put that out there. I know I can't push you anymore on that. By the way, I don't know if people picked this up in the press release, and maybe I'm overreading it, but there's another statement here. It's not a quote, but a statement where it says initial industrial production has yielded cylindrical cells in both the 18650, 21700 formats, capacities. Initial industrial production. Have you guys already started producing? Because I picked that up right
Well,
there. That's it.
if we wrote it, we restarted. We've made our first batteries, and we have if we're giving us those results, is because we've tested them. We have the batteries. We're showing pictures of them. They're made. The first batch have been made. The first batch will be received are in shipment and in transit, but they'll be arriving very, very soon, and then they'll be able to be delivered to end clients. So we said, okay, the press what you read in the press release is the truth, is what we've done.
So there's already production and they're already being shipped. Can I ask you for sample purposes, kind of like what you're doing the fume silicon side with Evonik and other manufacturers? Is that what's going on here? Like initial
No,
industrial production because you're sending off for evaluation, or is that it's happening?
no, I won't go into too much detail, but we have a good idea where the demand for the first orders are going to be coming. So, it's probably us
Wow.
pre-ordering the material so we're ready to deliver on it, if that makes sense. But that's really the concept and conceptual idea.
Okay. I don't know if anybody's picked up on that because I didn't see any chatter about that around the boards, but okay, that's a fantastic answer. I'm happy to hear that. Let's talk
Mhm.
about the industrial partner. You can't tell us who they are, but quote, a partner already operating tens of millions of cells in
Mhm.
annual production capacity. This is
Mhm.
obviously not George Com industrial partner. Um, what does that say about the seriousness of your initiative? Because, for example, I know manufacturers of different things, whether it's food or whatever it is,
Mhm.
they're not taking on somebody as a partner or as a customer unless George Com knows that Bernard over here is probably going to achieve a certain amount of volume, and I have reason to
Mhm.
believe that. Otherwise, why am I going to waste my time? I'm just going to keep producing my tens of millions of cells in annual production capacity. What should that tell us about? Is that third party validation? Should we be looking at that as third party validation?
Well, I think the third-party validations, they've been able to integrate our material, as we said it was, in their production lines very easily. So for them, it's basically a way to use their capacity to produce battery for us. And they know that we're producing probably one of the best batteries out there. So for them, it's their interest
Wow.
to have us as a client because they're probably going to figure out, well, it's not a client, it's to be basically our industrial partner in this regard, because eventually, as we grow, our demand for them at the beginning will grow. Because that's the easiest way for us to do something without requiring the massive capex investment at the beginning. Okay, this is what differentiates from a lot of other companies that says we're going to do this, but we're going to need to build this plan. Everybody breaks their nose over this. The first thing you got to do is you have a good material. We've demonstrated with this that it's easy to incorporate into existing production line to make our better product. Now we're going to start to get sales volumes and those type of things to reach a certain point, and then we'll be able to say, okay, the next step will be how are we going to basically reshore or rebring back or reorganize closer to us the production. In a sense, reshore, I mean, bring it to Canada for the concept of it.
Um, that tells me, because I just wrote this question down, if they've already incorporated into their manufacturing process,
Mhm.
these discussions must have been going on for at least 3 months. I'm just kind of guess
Yeah.
because you have to have the discussion. You have to say, trust me, you can incorporate this. I don't know, send me
Mhm.
some material, send me something, have it
Mhm.
called until they get convinced to try it. So, how long has this relationship with the large industrial partner uh, been going on?
Probably a few, well, we started to publish our good results middle of last year, so at one point during that time frame, it started to occur. You have to be able to find those those gem, okay? Because you got to go through evaluating a few industrial partner before you find the right one that's going to work well with you and that does what you need it to do. Okay. So, but that was done in an accelerated path, and everything fell in the right place. So that's why we say like everything happened a bit sooner than we anticipated. We know it's not that easy to incorporate our type of material into batteries. You need a specialty to do it, but to be able to find this thing. So it's it's good work, a bit of luck. There's always a bit of luck, and finding a good partner to be able to do it, and basically finding an industrial partner that will do that part of the work for us, which allows us to focus more on the revenue side generation, the improvement of the battery side, and eventually, once we grow a certain size of volume of business, then we'll look at how we can vertically integrate it, or if it's worth our while if we keep under the same pattern.
So that tells me, and I think that should tell everyone at home, that a lot of times when you're talking about press releases, and we'll talk about some of the feedback from some shareholders, you'll always say, we don't do anything without there being a purpose. So
Mhm.
it sounds like if the relationship started that long ago, nobody knew about it, obviously. There wasn't any hint of it, that all those press releases, if nothing else, had a purpose for the world. And sometimes I would actually ask you that. I'd say, Bernard, this seems to be a little repetitive. 600 cycles, but last week was
Mhm.
500 cycles. Did you really need to put out a press release for another 100 cycles?
Mhm.
But should shareholders learn a lesson here, that Bernard, that what they're seeing is obviously very positive, but they don't know. I think you said this in the past. They don't know what they don't know. So
Well,
there's more going on, and there's a strategic commercial reason for some things you do that maybe confuse shareholders sometimes.
well, there's yeah, it's not deliberately done to confuse shareholders. It's just we're focusing on what we have to do to get a business started. Okay. Now the issue with a publicly traded company is that you're running basically two companies in parallel. One that is the publicly traded company where you issue the press release, you communicate with your shareholder, get that moving, and the other one is where you do the brick and mortar things and do the real thing. Okay. So in this case, we have to learn to separate the two of them, and sometimes there's a lot of things that we can talk about what we're doing because it's until we finalize what we're doing or until we reach a certain point where we're very comfortable with what we are to be able to start talking about it. Because if we start talking about it too early, any what is perceived to be delayed is, you know, can be played up by some people as being overly negative. So the advantage of us has been to be able to have because we have so many good verticalities that are moving at the same times. We can focus a bit more on this one, a bit on that one. Doesn't mean that we're not working on one. It just means that we're not talking. This is the perfect example with the battery. I was surprised by the number of emails I got from people about the battery thing. Even some people saying, why we deserve to be told what's going on the battery side. Fine, but it's going to come up at the right time, and that's what
Commend
it's
you for that.
happening. Yeah, so it's like for a long time people were complaining that we had nothing to say on fume silica, and now they're saying we're talking too much about fume silica. Well,
Clearly, none of us should question again
mhm,
how much you're talking about whatever initiative and when you're talking about it.
mhm.
And this press release proved it. Let's talk a little bit about the business side revenues. Claude on Agoracom, Claude MC60 had a couple of really good questions that I was already thinking about already. But specifically, two, will HPQ be earning any revenue slash income from Novacium's product sales? And on the flip side, will Novacium receive any revenue from HPQ sales activities in North America?
Okay, answer number one. We are a shareholder of Novacium, so we'll get our share of the revenue part of it, but I'll be reinvested into it. But basically, we own a certain percentage into Novacium, so yes, we'll get that. For the flip side of the question, okay, because of the way our transaction has been structured with Novacium, where we pay Novacium for their work, for their ability to do R&D, for us having access to a top tier team of experts that are helping us on all the project. The counterpart of this is we have an exclusive North American license on this technology, but there's no return royalty for this. So when we start our own operations for this, at this moment, it will be all HPQ. HPQ, we finance Novacium, but still, to answer that question, what HPQ will do in Canada under its exclusive license will be HPQ. What Novacium does in France or in Europe or where they're doing it will be Novacium, but HPQ is a shareholder of Novacium.
By the way, is that Canada and the US or just Canada?
Our definition of North America is Canada, US, Mexico.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because you said Canada, I want to make sure I clarify that.
No. It's
Um,
it's it's it's, it's Canada, US, and Mexico.
so staying with that, Presley says, quote, the strategic pivot also supports revenue generation expands investment potential, and enables HPQ, the exclusive North American licensee, to prepare for local production. HPQ aims to initiate its own manufacturing in Canada. So, question
Mhm.
for you. So, you kind of answered that earlier. Once you get up to certain levels,
Mhm.
but wouldn't it make sense? And I'm just asking because we don't know anything about the large industrial partner, but wouldn't it make sense for the most part to just produce it with your manufacturer somewhere else, wherever this is, Europe or wherever this might be, and just ship in all of your requirements just like the rest of the world does? Like, do you think you'll ever have to set up a manufacturing? And if you do, follow up to that is how expensive would that look? Are you talking about $100 million plant, a $500 million operation? Because I have no idea what it costs to create Georgetown battery manufacturing plant.
Okay. The answer to this is sort of like twofold. While that will be good at the beginning when we reach a certain level in those type of sales, I think the best business model to go get the most amount of government grant and subvention to start our own, we'll be able to have our own integrated Canadian, North American production capacity for this. I think that is the long-term vision. Because there's going to be advantage to it because there's shipping costs or transport costs. There's some, there's some event related to lithium transport and those type of things, which all play into the cost of the batteries at the end and moving forward. Now, what people have to realize is we're looking at production line for batteries that are 18650s. We're not looking at building another Nordvolt and all those type of things. Okay. We are looking at some process that already exists, works, demonstrate production line that you can basically buy. Production line that you can basically buy and implement them. So we're going to stay focused on what we're doing and do that and really take advantage of that opportunity with the goal of eventually being fully vertically integrated because there's other part of this process which are ongoing, which I still can't talk about it. But as they come more and more into fruition, people will understand that all parts of the dynamics. In a certain way, Canada is everything's required to do these type of batteries. I think the problem has always been in the execution of this, which has always been based on let's go massive, okay? And then as opposed to let's make sure that we do it smart, we generate money, we generate revenues, and we get things moving.
Well, I have to admit that's been one of my favorite parts about HPQ. Look, I've had 500 clients the last 25 years, and the ones that really scare me are the guys that are doing really well. They say now all we need is $800 million to get into production. And I'm like, holy moly, this is that's. And I love the fact that you're so modular. The way you do everything, I think is great. I think that's fantastic. By the way, some people have been asking, and I was thinking about it first when I saw the picture. Oh, bring up the picture, by the way. Let's see the star of the show. We should bring up the picture. And while you're bringing that up, Bernard, the question I have for you, I was thinking, I think some other people are thinking it. Can we order some of these ourselves? And I'm not talking about because I have a use case for them. I don't have a use case for it. But I think it'd be really neat if investors could order,
Mhm.
I don't know, a box. I don't know how these are shipped. It looks like there's a box there, so maybe you got to buy them by the box. But personally, I would think it'd be awesome if you create like a special unit where the first 100 that individuals order are signed by you and or Dr. Cram or something like that. So it's a collector's item. And
Mhm.
potentially we have these for many years. That's any chance that we'll be able to order these anytime soon ourselves, just to hold them
Yeah.
in our hands the way you do on these webcasts and the way
Yeah.
you're doing there in the picture.
Yeah. Yeah, of course that's going to be like it's not going to be like a business plan, but it's going to be an opportunity. There'll be a bit of a B2B direct business that can come out of it. Because there are some people that will need for their own application some of those batteries and will like our high performance batteries. Um, as we work more on industrial clients that will be interested in more of those batteries, but we'll focus more on these issues.
And by the way, when you say that, I love the fact that this isn't for EVs. I mean, it'd be great, but everybody's doing batteries for electric vehicles and the same old narrative, but uh, that's not the case for you. So talk to us about what we're looking and which markets you think you guys are going to be, just a couple of verticals or a couple of markets you want to go after?
I think one of those type of markets is going to be triple C communication, computers. Um, there's multiple of those smaller markets for basically all wearable things in the computer sides. That's where it's going to be at the beginning. As weird as it is, electronic cigarettes. Well, they need those type of batteries because of the juice it requires to make them work. I'm not saying you're advocate. I'm just giving an example of one of the
Yep.
markets. So there'll be more of these markets. We'll start demonstrating more and starting showing it more. We showed the big picture of how big that market is. It's a few $billion a year and it's growing massively. But now we'll go more granular where the specific application for these could be. It could be for drones. It could be for it could be for your home if you want a good, rechargeable flashlight. It could be for emergency system that need, recyclable batteries, rechargeable batteries to be able to safety light. So there's a lot of user cases. Okay, our focus now is just to be able to deliver a cost-effective way a battery in which we will generate significant, margins per batteries and be able to get it moving.
Is there a vertical or two that is a favorite of yours and Novacium's that you want to focus on?
Sorry.
Is there a favorite vertical or two that you and Novacium want to focus on? Because the good thing is there are a lot of verticals. The bad thing is there are a lot of verticals, and you could drive yourself crazy and go bankrupt trying to chase every vertical. So
No, no,
are there
we're,
a
we're,
couple here that are your favorites that you guys want to tune in? You guys want to really focus in on?
I think the biggest one we want to focus in first is going to be the military because there's a
Yeah,
massive
that
need
seems to be
for
obvious.
for so that's really going to be one of our first ones. Second one could be probably drones, and then we'll find power tools could also be one. So there's plenty of those market we can look at.
Yeah, we'll talk
So
about
what you're
marketing
seeing
another
here is
side. We'll keep this high
yeah,
level right now. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
at some point, we're going to be interested to see what your marketing plan is going to be. How do you reach out to the drone guys? How do you reach out to the power tools guys, for example? So that's going to be interesting, but that's not for today because today is just great news the way it is.
No.
I'm going to bring up a question I haven't brought up in a while, uh,
Hmm.
but it seems really relevant today, which is, and I know you can't give a specific answer, but at some point, how far away are you from starting to spin out some of the legs of HPQ?
I think it's becoming a much more needed discussion that we're having in the sense that maybe it becomes a bit too far-fetched to go from fume silica to batteries to hydrogen. So we'll be looking into it. I think that's all part of the concept of making this division, this line, already starting to be a revenue generation with a clearer path to increase its revenue sales and getting those things moving. To be
Yeah, I
to
would
be
have to
totally honest.
think. Yeah, I'd have to think funders, especially the finance guys, they have specific verticals,
Mhm.
right? One might be an industrial chemicals company, so they're interested in funding the fume silica,
Mhm.
but they have no interest in the batteries. Obviously, other ones are going to be battery focused. They're like, I don't care about fume silica, for example, and they're going to
Yeah, but
want their money to go specifically into,
yeah.
is that, and usually that happens when big money starts coming. Up until now, you've had to do small, you haven't done
Mhm.
major financings, but I would have to think, Bernard, by, I don't know, the end of the year, maybe that's going to start becoming an issue where a funder says, hey, I really want to fund this battery opera business of yours, but I don't want to have an interest in any of the other stuff. And you might have to go to a spin out.
Well, when we get there, which is going to be relatively soon, it'll be a nice problem to have. We've gone through that when we did the Bose Goldfield one, so we have a good idea what's ahead of it. We structure the company in this regard to be there, um, and that's really going to be coming. Like to be totally honest, like everything is moving forward as we expected. Everything is advancing in the right direction. We're happy that having found this industrial partner, we can speed up. And the importance for us is to be able to find the right industrial partner we can work very, very well to get things speed up and moving. So I'm pretty excited about what's going to be happening. And if at one point the investor says we prefer to have this on an outside shell, it's going to be fine because every shareholder of HPQ will benefit from that verticalities as it moves along. We won't lose anything into doing that. We'll gain.
You're slowly, potentially, I say that, you're slowly, potentially becoming the Elon Musk of the small cap space because you'll have all these great kind of
I don't take
related,
any of
but
those crazy drugs, George.
yeah, without the
I'm just
drugs,
drinking water.
without the drugs. That's not water right there. That's iced tea or something. I see color in that.
Yeah, that's basically Gatorade.
Bernard, final comments to you, my friend. We don't do that very often, but after a day like this, news like this, great interview. I think that's just been fantastic. I think the investors are going to love this. Last word to you.
Hopefully we answer those questions. If there's question you feel you don't answer and you feel you would prefer that we have like a question and answer session, there's gonna be the AGM soon. I'll have a new deck ready at that moment, and maybe after that we'll do it beyond the deck and we'll do a question and answer. But the point is, in 2025, we're accomplishing a lot of things we said we would be accomplishing. Okay, and you cannot deny this. The fume silica reactor has started working. We've demonstrated we make fume silica. We're ongoing in a testing protocol, but I'm not going to come back into play-by-play every minute. So be prepared for us to repeat a bit of what we did here for the batteries. Regard to the fume silica, we got the batteries moving forward. We got the hydrogen moving forward. We got the waste energy moving forward. So we have a lot of very positive things coming along. So the last few months may have looked rough if the investors look at what's going on, and I understand that part. I'm a large shareholder, okay, so I suffer the same pain as everybody. But we're advancing, we're executing, and we're actually delivering the demonstration that we can now be in a position to start offering those type of batteries to the market with our Gen 3 material is pretty fast. We started to talk about our first results a year and a half ago, okay? And here we are in a position where we have batteries to offer.
That's incredible.
So
that's incredible. That the speed of that for people at home, I don't know how experienced.
Some
people have a lot of experience. That's ridiculously hyper speed to go from concept to today's press release and everything we've talked about. That's unbelievable.
And all that is based on the fact that we did a smart move, okay, to partner up with the guys at Novacium and to work together to get this moving forward. This is where the dividend of what we're doing there is coming through, and is going to start to shine for all shareholders.
I'm going to end off by saying, I think I know I speak on behalf of all the shareholders. Congratulations to you. Thank you to you and Dr. Kram, his entire team at Novacium. I can't wait till we actually have Dr. Kram on one of these days. And it sounds like we might have a reason to have him on by the end of Q3 2025. So that would be fantastic. But hats off to you, Bernard. Hats off to your entire team, which is a small team at HPQ, the great team, the brilliant team at Novacium. Thank you for what you guys are doing. And we can't wait for the next update. We can't wait for the next press release. But until then, congratulations. You've earned it today. That's to say the least, my friend.
Great. Thank you.
For everyone at home, thanks for joining us. Hope you loved another great interview with Bernard at HPQ Silicon. Gonna say it again, as things keep progressing forward, keep diverting your attention over the Agoracom forum, build the HPQ community there, moderated, civilized, professional, because we're gonna need that more and more as time goes on. It looks like, I don't know, but fingers crossed, but it sounds like it. Thanks for joining us. As always, thanks for posting your questions, your comments. Have a great day. See you next time.
See you next time.
Hey, small cap fam. I hope you loved this interview because more than a dozen people were involved in its production for the sole purpose of making you happy. If so, Can you take a moment to support both our awesome guest company and Agoracom? Your engagement means the world to us. First, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up by tapping that like button. It's a small gesture that helps this interview reach even more potential investors to discover today's guest. Second, we would love to hear your feedback on this interview, so please leave a comment below. Be sure to keep it clean, but feel free to poke fun at George. If you loved what you heard on today's video and want to dig into our guest company right away, take a look at the links in the description below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to never miss another great Agoracom small cap video. Thank you so much. We couldn't do any of this without you. Make sure to come back soon.